salutations, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. On today's program, I am here to talk about my thoughts on the first half of The Walking Dead Season 10. Now, for many of you who don't know, the mid-season finale has come and gone, so the show is now on the mid-season break, and I believe it's set to return for the second half sometime in January or February. But I thought I would go ahead and give my take on the first half as a whole, given that I haven't done any individual episode reviews, and there's another reason why I haven't really done any reviews of the first half of the season. And I know I've stated before several times why, but this is probably the main reason why I have not done any individual reviews of the season. And quite frankly, I was just not feeling it. In fact, I watched the first 2 episodes and then I did not watch for a few weeks. And I was debating really hard on whether or not I wanted to continue watching this show. That's really what it is. I've had so much apathy for this show for the past few years. Now, for those of you who are new to my channel, I have done several episodes on The Walking Dead, but if you're curious to know my thoughts, well, I have been, as I've said, very apathetic about this show for the past, about 3 years or so. I was not a fan of season 7. I don't think it was necessarily the worst season of the show, but it was not very good at all. It was definitely much lower in terms of quality than the previous seasons. And then season 8 comes around and it all but destroys my love for this show. I absolutely hated season 8. It's the worst season of the show, in my humblest of opinion. It nearly destroyed me as a fan, wanting to continue watching the show. But I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go on ahead and trudge on, because I guess my mindset was fan obligation was what was on my mind. Like, I felt that I had to continue watching the show. I guess maybe my mindset was that I didn't think that I could still call myself a fan, even though I have profound love for The Walking Dead in general, both the show and the comics. But I trudged on through season 9, was not very impressed with it, and it was getting pretty close to me saying, you know what, I think I'm just going to stop. And then season 10 trailer comes around from SDCC, and I did a reaction video to that, and I was not overall impressed, and I was about ready to say, you know what, I'm probably just gonna stop. So I watched this season premiere, and it was alright. I will say that. I didn't think it was all that bad, but then after the fact, like when it came around to Sunday for episode 2, I was just like, yeah, I don't feel like watching. I just cannot get the motivation to watch. So the weeks come and go, and I thought to myself, well, maybe I should give the show another chance. So I went ahead and I binge watched 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I must say, I was quite impressed. I never in a million years thought that I would say that. Because I thought, well, this is going to be like season 9. Season 9 I thought was just kind of meh. But no, I was very impressed. It actually kind of reinvigorated my interest in this show again. And of course, to let you guys know, I will be going into spoilers into this review. So if you have not seen the first half of the season, well, you know, like I said, previous times you have been warned. But where do I begin as to what I really liked about this? Well, for one thing, I think they were getting more into other ideas that I thought that would have never been tapped. Take, for instance, I find really interesting what they're doing with Ezekiel. I was not very happy with the direction that they were taking him in the second half of season 9, and then with the start of season 10, where he's just kind of moping around, how you can kind of tell that he's very depressed, and I think he really misses Carol. He misses being with her, the kingdom has fallen and everything else. And then they come out with this reveal that he has thyroid cancer. And I think that is a very interesting idea, because you've got to think, even though the apocalypse is still going on, people are still going to get sick. And that's one of the reasons why, of course, I'm probably the only person that liked the first half of season 4 with the flu outbreak at the prison. I thought that was a really interesting idea, because you don't really think about that kind of stuff in terms of what could happen in a zombie apocalypse, because people can still get sick. That's why I thought that I was really intrigued by that in season 4, and I thought if they were ever going to kind of tap into something like that, because if you think about it, people could still get various diseases in a zombie apocalypse, and I'm sure that people can still get cancer. And of course, the sad thing is that this obviously is a setup for his demise. Ezekiel's days are numbered on the show, and I'm going to be really sad to see him go, because Kari Payton has done an incredible job with Ezekiel. He, to me, was the highlight of seasons 7 and 8. It'll be interesting to see what is done with his character. Granted, now in the zombie apocalypse, they've regressed in terms of medical breakthroughs. So it's like, it'll be interesting to see if they'll even be able to find a new kind of treatment for his cancer, or if he genuinely is going to die. See, that's what I call stakes, which is something that this show has sadly lacked for the past couple of years, is just raising the stakes on this show. Because now you've got this thing with Ezekiel with having this cancer. His days are numbered. So it's like, are they actually going to be able to find a cure for him, or find some sort of treatment that can help him with this? Or is he just going to die? That's a really interesting idea that's actually got me kind of invested in this show. I also like what they're doing with the Whisperers. I don't think that episode 2 was really necessary, but I will admit it is kind of interesting to see how the Whisperers have formed with the meeting of Alpha and Beta. It's a very interesting concept to go with, to see kind of how they formed the Whisperers. Granted, even though it was a bottle episode, it really didn't do very much for the story. I think an interesting idea they really wanted to kind of build upon the comic, which I do give credit to the show writers for doing, is that they do come up with ideas in terms of building upon the comic, kind of like what they did with Dwight. You got to see Dwight before he joined Negan and the Saviors. Doing more with the Whisperers, seeing how they execute their plans, trying to whittle away at the psyche of people in the communities. But then yet, I also think about it, well, is Alpha really doing the right thing by trying to whittle away at people's psyche? Because she still loves her daughter, and she still cares about her daughter, and she wants her daughter to be safe. So to kind of do what the Whisperers are doing to the people that have her daughter just seems kind of ridiculous, because that in turn puts her daughter in grave danger. So if you think about it, like, on the surface, it seems like a really interesting idea, but then of course you think about, well, if these people were to die, then Lydia's screwed. Unless if that's maybe what Alpha's plot is to destroy the community so she can get her daughter back. I don't know. It's a very complicated matter. I do like Thora Birch on the show, who plays Gamma. I think she's doing a terrific job. But of course, Thora Birch she's just an incredible actor. Loved her, God, going all the way back to Hocus Pocus when she was a little kid. She's about my age, actually. But I like what they're doing with her character, how she's in this moral predicament. Like, does she really want to help these communities? I think you can also kind of sense that she still feels pain from what happened with her sister. And I'm sure she has a level of guilt in that. And obviously Aaron is trying to get through to her. And I like that whole kind of dynamic between Gamma and Aaron. I like just some of these interesting ideas that they're coming up with, which I thought when I first saw the season premiere with the whole thing with the satellite exploding and descending from the sky, I thought, oh, well, the writers have scraped the bottom of the barrel of ideas. But then they come up with this stuff like what they're doing with the Whisperers, and then you've got Ezekiel's fate. Oh, and of course, I've got to mention Eugene, because, yes, gotta show my level of bias here, because Eugene is my favorite character on this show. Well, my favorite character on The Walking Dead in general. And I like that they're finally giving him stuff to do. And something that they should have done dating back to season 7 was to give him some of his more iconic moments from the comic, which they completely failed at in seasons 7 and 8 with All Out War. He was royally robbed of such an incredible storyline that he had in All Out War, so I was very pissed about that. But I'm glad to see that he's finally starting to get, because yeah, I will also be injecting spoilers from the comic in here as well, but I'm going to be very cautious. I'm going to try not to spoil anything, that any future plot details that might potentially happen on the show. But just like in the comic, there's the whole thing with Eugene and the radio. Greetings, everyone. I thought I would record this little piece of audio here because I did not really do a good job of explaining what I was talking about here in the video. So in the comic, and just like what happened on the show, Eugene gets in contact with a woman from another community on the radio. That's basically what I was trying to refer to in my video, and I did a horrible job of explaining that, so I apologize for that. But carrying on, how it's going on in the show, I think it's going to pan out like it did in the comic with this other person, so I'm not necessarily going to reveal her name or reveal what exactly happens from there, but I have a feeling they probably are going in that direction. And in fact, I might do a separate video going a little more into detail, because I know in the season 10B preview, or the trailer to that, there was one moment between Eugene and Rosita that I think people are thinking like, oh my god, are they actually going to hook up? So I think I'm going to do a separate video talking about that, which I think is going to be much different than what people are thinking is going to happen based off of that preview. But I'm really happy that he's finally getting some meaty storylines and not being treated as a side character and being treated as kind of a third wheel for the whole Rosita, Gabriel, and Siddiq storyline, which I don't care for this. Never in my lifetime did I think that I would say this, but I think I liked the Eugene and Rosita storyline from the comic. Oh, God, I can't believe I'm actually saying that, but I think it's probably because they gave Eugene something to do in the comic. But again, I just want to say that I'm really looking forward to seeing how things are going to play out for his particular arc in this season. And yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of, as far as me thinking off the top of my head, what I really liked about the first half of the season. And I will admit, I'm actually looking forward to what transpires in the second half of season 10. Now, to go over some things that I didn't like. Of course, I have made it abundantly clear that I was not a fan of Siddiq's demise. I still stand by that statement, regardless of what they've done with explaining Dante infiltrating the community and stuff. I still stand by my statement that I don't think that was really necessary for the plot. Another thing I really did not like is Carol. Now, I love Carol. Carol was once one of my favorite characters on this show. And I hate to say it, but I don't think she really has anything to contribute to the story anymore. And I honestly think that it's probably better off if they killed her. Because all they're doing right now with Carol is they're kind of recycling this whole deal with her that goes all the way back to season 2 with the loss of her daughter Sophia. Because, as I've mentioned before, how I've said that them losing the doctor is a walking meme at this point. Now it's the same with Carol. It's like, it's really frustrating, because it's like, how many more kids is she going to lose? And now all of a sudden she's become reckless again because she's lost her other kid. And I don't like where this is going with Carol. And a friend of mine has actually said that he thinks that she's going to get a certain comic character's death, and I'm kind of thinking that I think they might be going down in that direction, because where else can they go with Carol? How many times are they going to have her come back to the light and then all of a sudden she loses herself again because she loses another kid? It's become so boring and redundant, and it's getting really old. I just don't know. I don't like what they're doing with Carol, and then for her to just go off and run after Alpha was just so stupid. Again, I've stated before in a previous video that that's another thing that drives me nuts about the writing on this show, is having characters do things incredibly stupid that make no sense to their character in order to advance the plot, which that shit needs to stop. It's like between that and the shock value moments for the sake of shock value and not actually pushing the story forward. Those two things are just they're my biggest pet peeves with this show. We've got the whole deal with Carol, and I don't even know what they're doing with Gabriel at this point. I don't even know why he's still around. Sometimes I'm thinking, is it possible? Well, little comic spoiler, but I'm just wondering if he might potentially end up getting his death in the comic. But then yet, now I'm also thinking about Rosita. The little talk that she gave to Father Gabriel in the mid-season finale leads me to think, oh, maybe she's the one that's going to get this certain comic character's death. I'm wondering if Coco is going to end up being adopted by Eugene. Kind of how ironic would that be, that he's the one that takes over taking care of Coco, because the other three parents in the child's life were, well, now they're all dead. Like I said, I've been very impressed with what they've been doing this season, and it's actually injected some interest for me in terms of this show. I'm actually starting to enjoy this show again, and I never thought that I would actually say that. Is it as good as the show's golden age? No, it's not. I hate to say it, but without Rick and Carl on this show's just not the same for me. I know it's not fair to Angela Kang. I know that it's not her fault that seasons 7 and 8 were so royally screwed up. But to give her credit, she has been doing a very good job with this season. And personally, I think she's proven to me that she's a better showrunner than individual episode writer. Because personally, I've never really been a fan of Angela Kang as a writer on the show. But I will admit she's actually doing a fairly good job with being the showrunner. And personally, I'm thinking maybe they should have gotten her in for season 7. She probably could have done a better job with the season than Scott Gimple, who I'm still baffled as to how he can royally screw up seasons 7 and 8 when yet 4 and 5 were my personal favorite seasons, and he was the showrunner for both of those seasons. But I kind of digress on that. I think she's doing a good job with what she's been given, because Scott Gimple, again, he completely shit the bed with the previous seasons and gave the mess to Angela Kang to clean up, and I think she's doing a relatively good job with that. But unfortunately for her, like I said, I don't think this show is the same without Rick and Carl, and it's not a knock on her, and it's not a knock on the characters on this show right now, but it is what it is. I'm curious to know exactly what you guys think about the first half of season 10. Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Did you somewhat enjoy it? Did you not like it? I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. And if you didn't like the first half of the season, I would love to hear your feedback as to what you didn't like about this first half of the season. And all I can say is I hope that they keep up the momentum with the second half of the season. And yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it. So until next time, dear friends, this is Cynical Lindsay, signing off.
I have a twinge in my belly that says you lean toward the good column of the alignment chart. I do know you. My given name is Eugene Erman Porter. And I propose we continue these convos on the rig with the hopes of building more. Should that meet with your approval and/or interest, of course.
I love him so much.
I know you do, honey.
I love him so much.
I know you do.